That morning, the apartment felt empty in a way that even silence couldn't fill. I stood in the kitchen, the smell of burnt toast lingering from a breakfast I never got to eat, and stared at the blinking cursor on my laptop. My coffee, still warm in my hand, seemed bitter, but not from the beans. It was the taste of shock and betrayal. We had been careful, or so I thought. 5 years of marriage. 2 kids. A life built on routines, on trust. I remembered the Saturday mornings we'd all pile onto the couch, Noah with his tiny socks dangling over the edge, Emma's hair in a messy braid, her little fingers clutching a storybook. Laughter bouncing off the walls like it always did. That was supposed to be forever. But as I looked at my phone, I realized forever could end in a few words. The messages started innocuously, some mundane notes about bills, groceries, and weekend plans. Then, one line made my heart catch. "I've moved everything to a safe account. Don't look for it." I froze. My hand trembled. My mind raced back to every paycheck, every savings deposit, every plan we had made together. Every plan, gone. I sank into the kitchen chair, the chair that had once been shared with her over Sunday pancakes. My mind replayed the subtle signs I had missed. The late nights at work, the whispered phone calls in another room, the sudden obsession with budgeting that now felt suspiciously precise. I had ignored them because I trusted her. Because I loved her. I didn't cry, not yet. There was a part of me that couldn't let reality land fully. I wanted to scream, to throw something, but the apartment was quiet, too quiet. Only the humming fridge filled the void. Life before that morning had been ordinary, comfortable even. We had a small, sunlit apartment overlooking the park, a place where neighbors waved and kids played in the evenings. I worked at a mid-sized marketing firm, long hours but steady pay. She, Claire, was at home mostly, handling the kids and their schedules, her presence a calming rhythm in the chaos of our lives. I remembered the night she cooked salmon with that garlic butter sauce, humming a tune I didn't recognize. Noah had tried to swipe a bite before I did, giggling. Emma had smeared her tiny hands across the tablecloth, leaving streaks that looked like abstract art. I had laughed, scooped them up, and kissed Claire on the cheek. Everything felt ordinary, and yet, even then, I wonder if the cracks had started forming, small, almost invisible. The first clue should have been the way she started locking her phone whenever I came near, even during mundane conversations. "Work emails," she would say, or just some bills. I had trusted her. I believed in honesty, in partnership. I didn't pry. I never imagined the weight she could hide behind a smile. Then, a week before she left, I noticed a difference in her tone during our nightly check-ins. Normally, she'd chatter about Emma's drawing or Noah's insistence on pancakes for dinner. That night, her voice was clipped, almost rehearsed. "I'm just tired, you know," she said. I let it pass. I should have asked more questions. I should have noticed the subtle tension in her shoulders, the way she avoided eye contact. But I didn't. The discovery hit me fully when I saw the messages. I scrolled through them, my thumb hovering over each notification, each timestamp like a dagger. The texts detailed the money she had moved, each amount exact, each transaction deliberate. She had emptied our joint savings, leaving only enough for the bills she knew I would try to pay automatically. She had planned it carefully, meticulously. I'll explain everything later. You'll understand why it had to be this way. Later. She had promised a later that would never come. I called her number. It went straight to voicemail. Texts went unanswered. Even our shared app showed her offline. I sat in the apartment, surrounded by the remnants of our life together, photos of birthdays, tiny shoes by the door, empty mugs on the counter, and felt a void open up where I hadn't known one could exist. It was the first real confrontation I had with reality. The quiet, the absence, the knowledge that someone who claimed to love me had orchestrated this betrayal. I felt anger, yes, a boiling red anger. But more than that, a crushing sense of failure. Had I missed the signs? Was I blind to her discontent? I replayed our last week together, trying to find the moment, the instant, the tiny betrayal I had overlooked. She had hugged me one morning, whispered, "I love you," and I had smiled back, trusting. I had held her hand at bedtime, brushing hair from her face. And she had been planning her escape. I didn't act immediately. I sat with the messages, staring at the numbers, the careful notes, the casual language that hid her calculation. The first instinct was revenge, to find her, to demand confrontation. But something in me, a quieter, steadier part, reminded me that clarity was more important than fury. I needed to know exactly what she had taken, why, and where it led. So I began to trace the transfers, the new accounts, the subtle hints she had left behind. Each step was methodical, painful, and surreal. The realization of her audacity hit me in waves. Every line, every instruction in her texts, revealed not just the money, but the precision of planning. She had thought of everything. My own complacency had made her success possible. Then the texts shifted in tone. What began as practical instructions became confessions. "I know you'll be hurt," one read. "But I couldn't stay. You wouldn't have understood. I need to live my life." Another, "I kept some for the kids. They'll still have security." Her justification made the betrayal sting in a new way. It wasn't just theft, it was a moral and emotional calculus she had performed, deciding what she owed me and what she owed herself. I understood her reasoning, yet my heart couldn't accept it. Understanding did not equate to forgiveness, not yet. I remember pacing the apartment that evening, running my hands through my hair, trying to make sense of it all. The sound of the ticking clock grew deafening. I could hear Emma's laughter in my memory, Noah's footsteps padding across the wooden floor. Those echoes reminded me of what I was fighting for, not revenge, not anger, but the chance to rebuild, to secure some semblance of life for our children, for myself. I opened my laptop and started drafting lists, accounts, transfers, contacts. Every entry was a breadcrumb she had left, and I would follow them all. The process was cold, clinical, yet necessary. I was no longer the complacent husband. I had become the investigator of my own life. The first part of my journey had ended with the shock of discovery. But the work, the reckoning, the confrontation, it had just begun. I would need patience, courage, and a steadfast refusal to let my life be defined by betrayal. And somewhere deep down, even as anger simmered, I felt a flicker of understanding. She had acted with her own fears, her own desires, her own version of survival. That did not excuse her actions, but it was a truth I would have to carry as I moved forward. The next morning, I woke with a dull ache in my chest, a mixture of exhaustion and anticipation. I didn't know whether to call her, trace her steps, or simply collapse under the weight of everything she had done. But the messages were still there, glowing on my phone like a trail of breadcrumbs she had deliberately left behind. Each one was a puzzle piece, and I was determined to put them together. I started with the small things. The transfers she had made, some to banks I had never heard of, others to accounts under slightly altered names. It was meticulous work, the kind of planning only someone desperate or incredibly careful could manage. I scribbled notes on a pad, double-checked each entry, and mapped it out like a crime scene. By mid-afternoon, I had a rough picture. She hadn't just taken the savings, she had liquidated assets we had bought together, sold jewelry I had gifted her on birthdays, even withdrawn cash from investments we had been slowly building for Noah and Emma's education. Every move was intentional. Every choice spoke of a mind that had calculated, and coldly, what she needed to do to leave. I felt a surge of anger, hot, blinding, and suffocating. But it was tempered by the knowledge that she had done this and moved on. She wasn't here to witness my pain, to manipulate me further. I could focus on what I could control, me, the kids, and what remained of our life. I decided the first step was to secure the children's future. I transferred what little remained into accounts I controlled, made new passwords, and informed the schools. I could almost hear her voice in my head, justifying the theft. I kept some for the kids. But I couldn't risk leaving it to chance. I wanted to protect them, not just from financial instability, but from the emotional fallout of betrayal. Noah, my 7-year-old, noticed something had changed almost immediately. He tugged at my sleeve that evening, eyes wide. "Daddy, why is Mommy not here?" I knelt down, brushing his hair from his forehead, feeling the tremor in his voice echo in my chest. "She's gone for a little while, buddy. But Daddy's here, and we're going to be okay." Emma, younger by 2 years, didn't ask questions. She simply clung to my leg, trusting my presence as a shield. In that moment, I realized I wasn't just fighting for money, I was fighting for their sense of security, their belief that life could still be safe. That night, I called her. Not to yell, not to plead, but to understand. Her voicemail greeted me. "Claire, I know what you did. I want to understand why. Please, call me back." Hours passed. No answer. Texts went unread. Her absence became a weight pressing into the air of the apartment, thick and suffocating. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, remembering all the times I had laughed, held her, and trusted her implicitly. Each memory was now tinged with betrayal. I realized that understanding didn't mean absolution. It didn't lessen the hurt. But I needed clarity to move forward, and this was the only way I could get it. Days turned into a week. Work became my escape, the rhythm of deadlines and meetings a small comfort against the chaos at home. I meticulously documented every transfer, every withdrawal, every message she had left behind. There was a pattern, almost elegant in its efficiency. She had planned this for months, maybe years, under the guise of mundane routines. And then came the message that chilled me the most. "I know you'll find this eventually." I had to take it all. "I'm sorry, but I can't stay. I love you in a way you'll never understand, but I have to live my life." The wording was casual, almost polite. But the subtext was brutal. She wasn't leaving out of anger. She wasn't leaving because of us. She was leaving because of her own fear, her own need to control her destiny. She had taken what she thought was necessary and disappeared into a life I couldn't touch. It was at that point that I realized revenge wouldn't give me satisfaction. Chasing her, threatening her, or attempting to reclaim every cent would only tether me to the hurt she had inflicted. I needed something else, something quieter, stronger. I needed to rebuild. I called the bank to secure new accounts, set up automatic savings for the children, and began meeting with a financial advisor to protect what I could salvage. Each phone call, each signature, each secured account felt like a small victory, not over her, but over the chaos she had left behind. 2 weeks after she left, I received an unexpected call from a mutual friend. Claire had been seen moving into a small apartment several miles away. She wasn't hiding, she wasn't on the run. She was living a life she had chosen, and for a moment, I felt the weight of the truth in a new way. She had exercised her freedom. I could either dwell on the theft or accept it and move forward. I chose the latter. Rebuilding wasn't immediate. Some nights, I lay awake thinking of the way our apartment had smelled when she cooked dinner, or the sound of Noah's laughter echoing off the walls. I missed her. I missed the life we had created together. But I had something stronger now, a sense of purpose, a commitment to my children, and a clearer understanding of who I was without her. I started small rituals to regain normalcy. I cooked breakfast for the kids each morning, taking over the rituals Claire had once managed. I read bedtime stories aloud, even when my voice cracked, and I let Noah and Emma tell me every little detail of their day without interruption. It was exhausting, but necessary. Every small act rebuilt trust, not in her, but in life itself. Months later, I finally found closure, not in confrontation, but in comprehension. I realized that Claire's actions, though devastating, were not a reflection of my worth, my effort, or my love. They were a reflection of her fear and desire to control her narrative. I could mourn, I could be angry, but I could also forgive, quietly, within myself. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It meant choosing peace over bitterness. The children thrived. Noah's laughter returned to the apartment, and Emma's sketches adorned the walls once again. I found moments of joy in routines, small victories that built a new foundation for our family. I also learned to listen to my own instincts, to notice the subtle signs I had ignored before. Trust is precious, yes, but vigilance does not negate love. Life moves forward, even when betrayal leaves scars. There were still nights when I read the messages again, tracing the words she had left, the cold efficiency with which she had dismantled our life. But instead of anger, I felt resolve. I had survived. I had protected my children. I had grown stronger, not in spite of the betrayal, but because of how I chose to respond to it. And for the first time in months, I realized that life could be full again. That laughter could return. That even when someone takes everything, you can rebuild what truly matters: your sense of self, your love for your children, and your peace of mind.